Hello, my name is Khalil Williams. This is my presentation for professional teaching standards. It will include information from NTASC and NCTM. That's my SBA. We'll talk about what those mean as we start to proceed with the presentation. Let's start it up. So, NTASC overview. What are the NTASC standards? They're model course teaching standards, learning progressions for teachers. These standards were developed to help teachers determine their current position in their professional journey and help shed a course for further professional development. Also, it stands for Interstate Teacher Assessment and Consortium. Effective teach. So some notes I have is effective language for teachers to use in the 21st century. That's this big. It emphasizes the language that you use as the time starts to roll on. Another is it has a common language for educators. So it provides educators from around the country with a common language to teach in class with. Another thing is it's a way to describe what the profession is about. Excuse me, I made an error, but it's a way to describe what this profession is about. It talks about what teachers should teach and how we should teach it. And one big one for me is it sets the bar for what teachers should know and should be able to do. It gets very specific, and we'll talk about that later. And it goes over entry-level skills, knowledge, and dispositions, something we also will talk about. So, just like we talked about earlier, describe what effective teaching across all content area and grade levels looks like today, and how we can support overall development of effective teaching practices. It provides teachers with a guideline to empower their students to take charge of their education. NTASC depends upon the support and input from practicing teachers, teacher educators, and other education professionals. Today we will discuss efficient ways of exploring the progressions and performance for NTASC standards. That's very important that it encompasses not only teachers but education professionals. Now let's move on. It's split up. So NTASC core is split up into four major pieces. One is the learning and learning. The second is content knowledge. The third is instructional practice. The fourth and last one is professional responsibility. Now for the first part, this is the learner and learning. The three standards here is learning development, learning differences, and learning environments. Okay, learning development, the teacher understands how learners grow and develop, recognize the patterns of learning and development. The second standard, the teacher uses understanding of individual differences in diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning environments that enables each learner to meet high standards. And third standard part of this learner and learning section is learning environments. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning and that encourage positive social interaction and actively engage students and help them self-motivation. Let's move on to the second set. This is about content knowledge. Standard 4, the teacher understands central concept, tools, inquiry, and structures of discipline. Standard 5, application of content. The teacher understands how to connect concepts and use differing perspectives to engage learners. And critical thinking, creativity, collaboration. That's super important. We'll come back to those later. Once again, this is about content knowledge. This is the fourth and fifth standards, 10 standards all together. Now we're on the 6th through 8th. And we have here is assessment. Okay, this is what we call our instructional practices, part of NTASC. We start off with standard 6. Teacher understands and uses multiple methods of assessment, super big, especially for me, to engage learners in their own growth, to monitor learning progress, and to guide teachers in learners' decision making. Standard number 7, planning for instruction. The teacher plans instruction that supports every student in meeting rigorous learning goals by drawing upon knowledge of content areas, curriculum, cross-disciplinary skills, pedagogy, as well as knowledge, awareness, and the community context. That's super big. And last, instructional strategies. The teacher understands and uses a variety of instructional strategies to encourage learners to develop deep understanding of content areas and their connections to build skills to apply knowledge in meaningful ways. This is the third section. So far we went over the learning and learning, content knowledge, instructional practices. That's these three standards. And the last two standards is a part of the last section, which is professional responsibility. Standard number 9, professional learning and ethical practice. The teacher engages in ongoing professional learning and uses evidence to continually evaluate his or her practice, particularly the effects of his or her choices and actions of others. Additionally, and adopts practice to meet the needs of each learner. Adapts practice to meet the needs of each learner. Last standard number 10, leadership and collaboration. Very, very important. We'll see it later. The teacher seeks appropriate learning, leadership roles, and opportunities to take responsibility for students' learning, to collaborate with learners, families, colleagues, others, school professionals, community members to ensure learner growth. The whole point of this is that you don't only collaborate with your colleagues, you collaborate with families and the students, and you force the students to collaborate within your classroom. That's a part of the learning environment, and it'll always be positive in the classroom. Now we can move on to my iteration. So my SPA is the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. This is another, well, actually it's right here. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics is similar, and they provide guidance for teachers to effectively teach mathematics and give students tools to engage, develop, demonstrate mathematics and mathematical concepts. The NCTM believes that all students should have the opportunity and support necessary to learn significant mathematics with an in-depth understanding. This is super important. This council is, because it takes those standards that we just went over and it really makes them, it boils them down, and we get more specific, and it's more helpful for math guys. Now we can move on here. National Council of Teachers in Mathematics as we continue. All right. Now let's go back to that last sentence. It says, we believe that all students have the opportunity to support necessary to learn significant mathematics with understanding. And in order to do this, in order to build upon this belief, math teachers should show an understanding of mathematical processes and its connection to broader concepts, and teachers should demonstrate knowledge, procedures, and an application of specific topics within mathematics. That's a specific quote or pull. Teachers, science, and this is also important. Science teachers should all understand the topics they are teaching and have a broad concept of the math that's present in the information they teach. We're going to see that later as we begin across curriculums. And now we're going to talk about the principles, contents, and standards. So the 5 content standards, basically the 5 classes or the 5 math topics that they generally surround and focus on: numbers and operations, algebra, geometry, measurements, and data analysis probability. And this is a huge part here. The 5 process standards are described through examples that demonstrate what each standard look like and what teachers' role in achieving it. We'll talk about these after this: problem solving, reasoning and proof, communication, connections, and representation. These standards can also cross curriculum and be just as effective in science education standards. We see these a lot in our science classes as well. And some of these standards can literally be directly applied. So let's start with problem solving. Build new mathematical knowledge through problem solving, solve problems that arise in mathematics and other contexts, apply and adapt a variety of appropriate strategies to solve problems, monitor and reflect the process. Representation. I'm going to choose one from here. Use representations to model and interpret physical, social, and mathematical phenomena. Right? Big representations is huge, right? We need to, include the standard in everything we do. Another is connections. Connections is mad important, right? Understand how mathematical ideas interconnect and build on one another to produce coherent whole ideas, or a coherent whole. Recognize and apply mathematics in a context outside of math. That's super important, right? That's the whole point of math, right? To apply these concepts to something else. And the NCTM, this communication, another one, Communicate their mathematical thinking coherently and clearly to peers. That's super big. Communication community, that is all one another. Analyze, evaluate mathematical thinking and strategies of others. All right, let's move on. Reasoning and proof. Recognize reasoning and proof as fundamental aspects of mathematics. And that's why it connects to science so big, right? Reasoning and proof, Why, and then prove it why. Apply it somewhere else, right? Select and use various types of reasoning and methods of proof. Develop and evaluate mathematical arguments and proofs. Very important. So now finally we get to the meat of this, right? Let's look at some common themes between InTask standards and the National Council standards, okay? So, let's begin. First, let's start with this. Both seek to provide support for teachers in this specific field and help them become more comfortable with content and classroom management. Both standards seek to support students by providing teachers with standard-aligned curriculum designed to aid students post-graduation. That's super big. All these standards is built on top of each other, like stairs. So once a student graduates, they have equal competition with other students around the country and even around the world, right? These standards are designed to help students after graduation if they decide to go to higher education or if they decide to work. Additionally, both push collaboration, professional development, and community outreach. Both also intertwine these ideas directly into curriculum. Okay. Next. All right. So the first common theme is real-world applications and connections. Okay. The standard number 5 matches up with how NTCM standard focuses on connection. All right. So student understands how to connect concepts and use differing perspectives to engage learners in critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, problem solving, and real world issues. All right. We must perform it in class, and we must be knowledgeable, and we also must hold strong dispositions. And you see this in the same standards for NTCM. The second common theme is building positive learning environments, relationships, and communication in class. Okay, we see this in Task Standard 3. All right, it reads how the teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning, that encourage positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. Okay, we see this in TCM, where it says organize, consolidate their mathematical thinking through communication, communicate their mathematical thinking coherently, clearly to peers, teachers, and others. That social aspect is super important, and it's the foundation of all learning. Communication. We learn when we're around others and we work with others. Another thing is we analyze and evaluate the mathematical thinking and strategies of others. That's a big one too. We see how others think and we edit how we think. All right, let's move on. Okay, how does each standard address professional collaboration? All right, in task, okay, the teacher seeks appropriate leadership roles, opportunities to take responsibility for student learning, to collaborate with learners, families, colleagues, other school professionals, community members to ensure learning growth and advance the profession. That's key. Advance the profession. We'll see that next. But collaboration is super big for in task. They know that you have to collaborate with every different part of the community. NCTM emphasize professional development through conferences in school relationship building amongst colleagues. They do a lot of big conferences and they actively support collaboration amongst schools. Let's move on. Data-driven instruction and decision-making, okay? Both InTask and NCTM discuss data-driven instruction and decision-making, articulating that although education system treats assessments as functions separate from teaching, teachers are expected to use data to improve instruction and support for learning success. They basically put it on us as teachers, which is responsible, okay, for us to use data, to improve our instruction, right? We want to work on our craft, and they both emphasize us having to work on our craft, reflect on our craft. Reflection is super big. Teachers should make decisions based on evidence and their knowledge of content, and to give students the information is based on facts. Okay, we have to review what we know, reflect on what we know to make sure our content that we disseminate is at its best. And so, yes, that's a big one. And last but not least, improving practice and advancing the profession. Both organizations work through this tirelessly, right? Teachers should continue to seek to improve themselves through ongoing professional development during the school year and also individually advance their education through higher education, credentialing. This is what we're doing right now. We're earning our masters. We're continuing to work on ourselves. Teachers are expected to assume the responsibilities of improving practice and advancing perfection. That's what we must do. There are many ways to do this through collaboration, professional development, and evaluation. Those are Those are the most important aspects right there. As we culminate, I just want to say thank you for your time.